So, talking about your ECAs and impact from the application, it's
Mhm.
written in your LinkedIn profile as well. So, you drafted a full climate action plan at the age of 18 and
Okay.
handed to the mayor. So, where did that
Mhm.
level of self-belief come from, and how did the mayor actually respond to it?
Okay, actually, I was not only one in that particular program to make a climate action plan. First of all, there is a national governmental organization, NGO, called Wildlife Conservation Nepal, which plan to make a climate action plan for Ratnanagar municipality, particularly. So, which has a border sharing with Chitwan National Park, which consists of mostly the buffer zone of Chitwan National Park. So, they invited stakeholders, industrialists, politicians, and I was also invited as a student to participate in that program, and I was the youngest member, in particular in the initial conference. Then they selected a few people from that, which consist of industrialists, again, politicians, officials, and expert from WCN and ICIMOD. So I was one of the members. So we worked on the problems of Chitwan, particularly Ratnanagar municipality. So like wetland restorations, about buffer flood in buffer zone. How can we create early warning systems in the buffer zone of Chitwan National Park? There is a great problem of human wildlife conflict. Mostly the rhinoceros and wild elephant enter into the buffer zone, and they have been destroying human civilization. So we actually talked about these issues. What are the problems in all the wards of Ratnanagar municipality? How can we solve that? We worked in a team. I was particularly assigned for human wildlife conflict and wetland restorations. I worked on that particular program, particular domain. I interviewed local people. Went to buffer zones. I traveled to several wards of Chitwan National Park, and like created a draft. Then finally we finalized the climate action plan, which consists of all other domain, where I worked in two domain: wetland restorations and human wildlife conflict. And we submitted that final draft to mayor of Ratnanagar municipality. So like working with experts, working with industrialists who are very experienced in that particular field, as a student, it's a great opportunity and a privilege for me. Mostly more than challenge, I think that's an opportunity to work with seniors, to work with more mindful people who are also empathetic at the same time, who is always eager to teach you the core values of nature, teach you the climate feelings of climate justice, the emerging concepts in the world. Like I was very confident in that field because I was always interested in nature, climate justice, carbon finance, and all. So more than challenge, I took as an opportunities, and yeah, that's played a good role as well. But I did it after I submitted my application to CMC, so this was not reflected in my college application draft.
Okay, whatever you get, like it's all about giving back to the community, and you have been doing that from a long time ago. And that's really happy to see like youths and people like us, like who are actually thinking about community rather than just college application.
Yeah.
So when you say that you did that after college application, that felt like really special for me. Now,
Yeah, mostly the misconception among Nepalese applicants is that they always do things in the sake of doing, just for college application. And I would
yep.
highly suggest to young minds that if you do not enjoy doing the things, then what's the point of doing that? So don't just do things for college application. There might be some things that you are really wanted to do it for college application. Besides that, the community work, volunteering, like working for underprivileged people, speaking for their voice, so it cannot be connected to college application. It's always way more higher than college application. So I would highly suggest him to try doing things you love, not just sake for like for doing, but also for giving back to the society or community.
Yeah, exactly. So we have talked a little bit about the radio program you hosted as well, but your
Mhm.
student-run radio debate show, like what gap were you trying to fill, and when did you realize like it was more than just a side project?
Okay, so after during my high school in St. Xavier's College, I went from Chitwan to Kathmandu. I found a great disparity between education system, opportunities in education between Valley, Kathmandu Valley, and mostly outside of the valley. So even if in the developed cities like Chitwan, developed cities like Pokhara, there has been a great disparity. So there is a great disparity between Chitwan and Kathmandu as well. Then what might be the disparity in maybe Humla or Jumla? The question arises within me, and that day I feel like, okay, I cannot go to Humla or Jumla to conduct a radio program, but I plan to pitch a radio program called Educational Debate, where I plan to interview teachers and students in the same program from the same school. So I asked the teachers questions and students are different questions. So from the eyes of students and teachers, I try to find out what is the actual gap, what is the actual disparity between students and teachers. From that, after hosting more than 70 interviews, I did a qualitative data analysis and try to get into one conclusion which cannot be maybe generalized all over the nation, but I reached to one conclusion. I also submitted that draft to various professors of the university that are affiliated with TU. So basically, the things that fueled me was the gap that I felt after going to Kathmandu from Chitwan. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. So now let's talk about your publications as well. Like you are also like article publisher in various like popular national daily like Annapurna Express and even the Rising Nepal. So
Yeah.
among all your published articles, which one still echoes in your mind? Like either because it has sparked the biggest discussion or shifted your
Yeah.
own perspective to the field.
Okay, so I published three articles, two in the Annapurna Express and one in the Rising Nepal. So my first article was Neuroeconomics, the science behind decision making. So Subham, you are taking courses in economics, you are very familiar with the subject matter itself. Next was the quantum computing in behavioral economics. Then third was the turning 2015 earthquake, that is 2072 साल को भूकंप, 2015 earthquake of Nepal into an economic model. So these three articles were published. Among them, I think the article that created most impact among readers was the last article, that is turning 2015 earthquake into economic model, because it's like more applicable to our society. Where I talked about Omori's law in geophysics. So normally in geophysics we study Omori's law, which states that the after the earthquake, like the smaller quakes or aftershocks eventually comes and go, but they never entirely cease. So this is what Omori's law actually talk about. And I connected that Omori's law to economics market crash, which states that once the market is crashed, or once the financial the domain is crashed, then its repercussions will come years after years and years, but never entirely stop. So I found a correlations between Omori's law in geophysics and the financial, post-financial market crash in economics. And I try to convert that 2015 earthquake using Omori's law to relate with economic model. How can it shape economic society? How can it shape decision making? How can it shape urbanization and all? How can it shape GDP? Actually, in 2017, our GDP reached at its peak. Like what's the highest among all? Actually, the rate was highest in 2017. Why? Because in 2015 there was lots of construction happening because of that earthquake. So I found that small correlations between the subject and wrote that article. So for the sake of, for the people, for the nation, I think the last article played an important role. But for myself, I'm always like, I was highly inspired with my first article because that was the first. First is always the first. So, and also the thing that I'm, like that I'm very oriented to the first article is the article in neuroeconomics has never been published in the National Daily of Nepal. Never. So if you search neuroeconomics Nepal, the first article will come, the same article that I have written for Annapurna Express. So it was never published in National Daily. Also, the topics was barely discussed in Nepalese community, except for some universities in the United States or UK. It was barely discussed among Nepalese community, Nepalese undergrads, Nepalese professors, and all. So I think for personally, I love the first article. It sparked a curiosity. It struck a chord within me. It created a path for me to go higher, to dream bigger. And also, I also talked about neuroeconomics in my supplemental essay. So for me personally, the first article always places a special place in my heart. But for society and for maybe readers, the last article may be quite impactful.
So, yeah, like let's talk about your other ECS as well. So you have been a Red Cross leader as well, Scout commander,
Mhm.
and a radio host, researcher, and I think poet as well. So, which role felt like most in sync with who you are, and which one stretched you to the furthest?
Okay, every aspects of this field have taught me some good values, good spirits. They are all inseparable parts of my life, and in shaping who I am today, all these small domain has a very important role. Red Cross has taught me a different value of like empathy, sense of belongings to my community. Scout has taught me a different leadership values, to take challenge, to become more courageous. like poem has taught me different values. I very rarely I write a poem, but yeah, I love writing poem. There's where I can express myself, where I can express my community. I express the circumstance of Nepalese society. So that has a different feelings. And radio program where I got to meet with many people, especially for when it comes to grassroots level residents. Radio program gave me a ample space to talk with them. So all of these things have very special place in my heart. When I have to choose one, I would choose radio program, because that's when I decided that I can do much to my community. So Red Cross, different, just one domain, like a scout, just leadership and not more than that. Poem, you just do it, and it cannot bring huge revolution these days. Back then it would have happened back in 1819, but now a single poem may not bring much change in society. In radio program, when I talked with 80, 84-year-old people who are being victimized of wildlife human wildlife conflict near Saura, when I talked with many Chaudhary women who are suppressed, whose voice are suppressed, whose voice can never reach to the radio station, like the politicians that I interview, the local leaders, climate experts, their voice are all over the world. Their voice are in other platform as well. Their voice are always heard. But who is going to speak for people whose voices are not heard, whose voices can never come to the radio station? So I decided to go out of that radio station, interview people, bring their voices back into radio station, and advocate for their needs. So as an individual, to make me more empathetic, more competent, more like more devoted to my community, radio program was very special. So that's where I found my inner self. That's when I feel like I need to bring change, I need to make change, I need to work for my society. So I would choose radio program as one of the very important, very substantial extracurriculars of my life, not just college application, but of life.
Wow, that's amazing, Asis. So
Thanks,
let's
Shubham.
do a section of like looking back and looking forward. So can you please
Mhm.
take us to a failure moment, like something that is stung at the time, but it reshaped your view on leadership or purpose? Like we have been talking about what you did, like it sounds like all like a successful fairy tale. Like can you please take us to a moment of failure?
Okay. Failure and success are the parts of life, but I think for me personally, I have never used term failure, and I don't normally suggest using term failure. There is a famous saying in Nepali, like कि जित्छौं कि सिक्छौं भन्ने. If we do not win, we will learn. That's how I have taken over the years. I have taken normally what we call failure into a process of learning. But when I was a child, I used to like make a conception of I failed. The most important like most life changing failure I had in my life was back then in my 6th grade. um, in 6th grade I changed school, and one of my teachers in a school assembly called me in a very surprising way to give a speech. I was a new student, new environment, just at the tender age of 12. In a very surprising way, I was called to give a speech. I knew that I can speak well. At the time, I used to do public speaking in mostly in Nepali. So I knew that I can do well, but I didn't prepare anything. In front of 1,200 students, I came to the assembly. I told them, "Good morning, everyone. I have not prepared today. I will tell you tomorrow." Everybody laughed at the moment. It was such an embarrassing moment, and then I returned back to my assembly line. The next day, as I mentioned that I will tell you tomorrow, the next day, I went to school by reciting every lines, every words of the biography of Ganesh Mansingh Shrestha, the leader I loved the most. Then
Yes.
I, like spoke with a very, in a very eloquent way, without a pause, without any eruptions and disturbance. So, and everybody clapped. So the change of that embarrassing laugh into the, like the applause, it's a different story. It struck a chord within me. It hit me strong. Then I felt like, okay, sometimes, like whenever people, sometimes we can change that life into, that laughter can be changed into applause. So if that laughter can be changed into applause, why can't our life be changed? Why can't, like a small thing can be changed into a huge milestone? So that was a moment that really inspired me. Now, like whenever I go back to that school and teachers used to like take my name in that school assembly, it's always a sense of pride in front of the students. So yeah, that was the moment I took as a failure, at a tender age of 12. But that really motivated me, that gave me a good sense of reflection.
Okay. The speech you gave about like Ganesh Man Singh, he's also known as the Iron Man of Nepal, like RD
Yeah,
debates
yeah,
for marbles. So, but actually, you feel like the Iron Man, like you weren't like embarrassed and you didn't return without saying anything. You told everyone that I
yeah,
will be returning tomorrow with a very
yeah,
good speech, and you actually did that. So you actually feel like Iron Man to me. So that's actually amazing. Imagine like you have like 60 seconds with your 15-year-old self or 12
yeah.
year old. Right before this journey started, what would you say to them? Like, what is your biggest suggestion or motivation to yourself?
To myself. Okay,
Yes,
I would say that, okay, retrospecting, going back to that 15-year-old self, I would say, why didn't you try new things? So try doing new things. So if I ask you, Subham, if I ask you what's your favorite fruit, what will you say?
favorite food?
Fruit.
Oh,
Let's say
fruit.
fruit.
Mango. This is the season of mango, and
Okay,
mango is my favorite fruit
okay. So how did you know mango is your favorite fruit?
because I tried it.
Yeah, you tried lots of fruit, 90% of fruit, maybe 80% of fruit, and you felt mango is your favorite fruit. So at age of 15 or 16, where there are lots of curiosities happening in our mind, in our, ventromedial prefrontal cortex, normally we should try doing new things, explore new things. Because if we couldn't explore, new things or innovative ideas at age of 14, 15, 16, we don't know what we are interested in. So that's what I actually didn't do much. I did few, but what I would say to myself is go back to that 15 years world, try doing 100 things, find out five best things for you, one most important things to you, and go depth into it. That's
Wow.
what I would call. Just like I give an example of fruit. You tried 80% of fruit, came to know mango is your favorite. So do 80%, try 80% of things a age of 15 or 16 can do. Try it, try out. And then find 20% that you love the most, 5% that you are really good at, and 1% that you want to carry out for your life. So that I would suggest to myself, maybe to all young minds who are listening me, maybe 13, 14, or 15, if anyone, I would suggest highly to explore and try out new things, because that's give you a kind of a shape, a step, a way or path to move forward.
Wow.
You did as well, like you started your talk to someone YouTube channel. So you tried out, you didn't know that you would reach here, you would reach 700, 800 subscriber, you would have like 100K plus views. You never knew, like, right? But you tried, you explored, and
Yeah,
finally you were here. So I think that's the most important thing a curious, ambitious, sagacious, courageous mind can do.
exactly. Thank you, Asis, for being
Okay.
here in this amazing virtual meeting, and I was like totally happy with all the answers you gave, and I feel like it was really insightful for all the Nepali aspiring students and even all the international students who are viewing us right now. So being made in English, it was really helpful for all our other international viewers as well. So at last, are there any final words from your side?
Yeah, I'm really grateful to you, Subham, for having me, for giving this platform to express my words, to particularly talk about Claremont McKenna, because, like, many Nepalese students, there are not much Nepalese students in Claremont McKenna. There's only one Nepalese student right now. And also in Claremont, as a Claremont consortium whole, there are just three Nepalese. So yeah, I hope many Nepalese students will be there in Claremont colleges in near future by watching your videos. Your all videos like were super helpful to me as well. I have watched your multiple videos. So keep going. Have a good time at Nepal and have a safe journey back to the US. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you.